Get them 1 minute for me.
Councillors, we'll be starting in 1 minute, okay?
Attendance sheet, I'd give you away, would that help me? Good for you, your space, would that be better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, you don't need any of those sheets, that sheet.
No, yeah, that's lovely.
First, just at the start, well, having people on since 7 years is also.
Okay, councillors, we'll make a start now. And I'd like to welcome you all here this evening at the Grange, Omagh, Tuesday the 28th of July. Just before we start the meeting, I'd like to just take a moment to remember Louise McCaffrey, who was employed as a receptionist at the Bourne Acre from 2005 until February 2016. Louise remained on the casual register and helped out at the leisure centre on a casual basis and worked there until November 2025. Unfortunately, Louise has passed away and is survived by her husband, Neil, 4 young children, Emily, James, Grace and Ethan, and her parents, Seamus and Geraldine Malloy. So we'll just take a couple of moments just to reflect on Louise. So we will start with apologies. We have 1 apology so far. And we'll go to Councillor Brown. Oh, I've got to do this on here, haven't I? Dermot?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We have 2 apologies so far. We have Councillor Declan McCardle and Councillor Roisin Devine Gallagher. Thank you. And a few others are going to be late.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington?
No apologies as I'm aware of. I think Councillor Irvine's online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, he is, yep. Councillor Robinson?
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Buchanan's going online.
Lovely, thank you. Everybody else? Oh, sorry, Paul. STLP, yep, everybody's okay. We've confirmed and signed the minutes already. So any declarations of interest? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm doing it. Oh, God, you'd think I'd have the hang of this by now. Okay. So the meeting on the 7th of July, for accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 and 24. We have a proposer, please. Councillor Little and Councillor Warrington, thank you. and all agreed. And now we're doing, all right, we don't go through it again, no. So now we're doing the declarations of interest. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of items. So it's number 13.7, the correspondence. Item 5 under the list of other correspondence documents, and then I suppose just to be best or be careful of the motion and the amendment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So matters arising. Page 1. Page 2. 3.
Chair, just on page 3, members, included within your other correspondence is the response from Northern Ireland Water dated the 24th of July. So that responds to the various queries and follow-up actions that NI Water undertook at the special council meeting. So just really a proposer and seconder to note, please.
Proposer, Rosemary, seconder, Roy. Thank you. Seamus?
Yeah, just on the responses that came back from NI Water. In relation to PC21 and PC28, I was really disappointed to see the answer back on that, basically going over the old mantra that they're divvying out the money as in almost value for money, which always is code for the vast majority of the money is going to Belfast and Derry, Lisburn and the big urban centres. The last time PC21, we got 0.2% of the entire budget of, I think it was 2 billion, even though we're 11%, I think, of the population. It was absolutely scandalous what happened. Now, when this was brought up with them again, they have just basically said they don't go by council areas and that they're going with value for money again. That seems to be what is in the letter, unless I'm misreading it. I think we need to write back to them. And when we had the regulator in sometime in the last year, the regulator eventually admitted that they have a responsibility that NIW would provide equality around the region, and that is something they can intervene on, unlike what NIW is saying in that letter. So I would like us to raise a complaint with the regulator in relation to that response, pointing out what happened the last time with the funding and what is seemingly going to happen again with PC28 funding. I think unless we act now, we're going to be in the same boat again, where we're going to get absolutely crumbs off the table. So that's my proposal.
And do we have somebody to second? Oh, sorry, Thomas, I'll let you in first.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to second Seamus's proposal there. I think it's certainly something that we should follow up on and do it now, as opposed to when things are past the post and we're still picking up the pieces. And in that vein, Chair, there is a situation in Newton Butler where the surge keeps overflowing and flowing into our play park, and on a number of occasions through a man's garden into our play park. And I see here the reply that we've got is that more investigations are going to be done. Over the last 10 years, I've heard that each time that it happens, it will be investigated and something done about it, but it keeps happening, Chair. So I don't know if maybe we could right back to Northern Ireland Water and sort of say, well, this is not acceptable, that there's a health and safety hazard here for children playing in the play park long after the cleanup is done, you know, that this is the smell, everything else that is running, not to mention the individual's garden himself having to deal with this on a continuous basis. And in that same vein, Chair, the pumping substation that is literally back to back with our play park, they say here that the will keep it, that there is adequate access for their engineers to get in and out of it. That isn't the issue facing our play park, and I appreciate it is not the NI Waters personnel dropping the rubbish, but it is a question where they're not allowing our orderly to be able to deal with the rubbish in there, and they won't pick it up in only once every 6 months, so it just accumulates, and it is really bad finance our play park. So I don't know, Chair, if we can include those couple of items in correspondence back to say on both occasions and on both issues, it is not acceptable that we keep going round the same carousel year on year.
Yeah, no, that's no problem, and it's definitely not. Dermot?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would like to just raise an issue in relation to Ashdale and Skillen. And that's something that I had queried when we met with NI Water the last time. And this is about an estate which is fighting to get adopted, a long running battle, and people are very, very frustrated. And I think people are really frustrated because they were given assurances by NI Water, which they've now reneged on. And NI Water told the residents in that estate that if they went away and gathered up funding that would cover the remedial works, that estate could be adopted. The residents went away and did that, and NI Water have come back to them now and said that the money that they had raised wouldn't even touch the sides of what's needed. So, you know, I understand that these issues are not easily solved and they do cost an awful lot of money. But I think when you give assurances to residents, you follow through with them. And it's just really, really bad management and really, really sheer incompetence, in my view, that they've give a promise that they can't deliver on now. So I would like to propose that we write back to NI Water on the issue of Ashdale and request an explanation as to why the assurances which were given have not been upheld in this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dermot, and I'll bring you in a second there, Seamus. I actually went to a restaurant over the weekend or last week, and the smell in Enniskillen, you know, along down the Queen Elizabeth Road, that's been an ongoing problem for years, but everybody was complaining about it, including the owner of the place where I was going for something to eat. So maybe that's something that needs to be looked at again as well. Seamus?
Yeah, just on them last two from Thomas and Dermot, they probably could be put into a letter to NIW, but the letter that I was talking about was going to the regulator, so it'd be a different destination to raise an official complaint.
Yep, that's no problem.
Thanks.
And Robert, can Robert hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Robert?
Yep. Sorry, Chair. Yes, Debbie, I can hear you, and thank you for letting me in. It's just on the issue that Councillor Brown Dermot raised with regard to Ashdale. I attended a meeting along with some other councillors regarding the response and I suppose the disappointment that the residents in Ashdale have found. But the issue around Ashdale is slightly more complicated in that Northern Ireland Water are saying that the work that they were going to carry out is insufficient because on further investigation, they found a problem with the sewers in the main road. leading up to the Chanterhill Estate, up to the Free Presbyterian Church. But that's outside the red line, the boundary of the Ashdale Estate. And really, writing a letter, I don't think in the first instance will actually aid or support what the residents are trying to do and the problem that they have run up against. I feel that you need to actually request a meeting facilitated by the council between the representatives of Northern Ireland Water. And I think you need senior management, not junior management, because that's the level that the residents have been dealing with, and ourselves, to try and actually see what can be done to actually see a way through to get the job carried out. So I'm not trying to piggyback or take away from what Councillor Brown's saying, but I think you actually need more. And a letter, as we've seen in the past from quite a lot of these public bodies, they will send back an innocuous reply that we will complain about and send another letter back to them. And so it will go on and nothing really happens. I think if you get people across the table and talk to them, they have very little room to maneuver or escape, and it might be the better solution going forward. I don't know what Councillor Brown thinks about that. Thanks, Debbie.
Can I just bring Councillor Brown in? Victor, I know you're next, but if you can just respond to.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm actually happy. I think that's actually a good idea, that if we write to them in the first instance and request that they meet with us,
Yeah.
outlining the frustrations,
With Newtown Butlers as well.
frustrations that the residents have, and that a solution needs to be found, and that we request that the chief executive or somebody of equal status comes and meets us, and so we can get the residents and NI Water into the room and discuss these issues and get a solution. Thanks. So I propose
That's
that.
okay, and you've got a seconder, and I'm sure everybody is in agreement with that. Victor?
Yeah, absolutely. There's major problems out there at the minute with NI Water and sewers and what have you. But I think in writing to the NI Water, I think it's only right that we include the infrastructure minister in as well to that letter, because it's obviously her department that's in charge of it. So include her in as well, please. Thank you.
Okay, and do we have to have a seconder for that bit? Okay, Thomas and Dermot, are you okay with adding that in? Yep. Yep, that's.
Just confirmed here that Councillor Irvine seconded Councillor Brown's proposal with that inclusion of the.
Councillor Irvine, did you second? Are you happy to second?
I'm happy to
Dermot's-
second, yes.
And with the inclusion, with
Yep.
your inclusion, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
That's very good. So now we're on.
Sorry, Chair, just also on that page, under the item 8.1, just members, we've received a response from Northwest Care regarding our wider correspondence about care in the community. So they've just noted that they operate, we did send a cross section of letters to operators across the district, so they've advised they only operate in Omagh and don't have any records of any missed calls. So just suggesting that's noted, please, Chair.
Okay, so does anybody want to note that piece of correspondence, even though they've got Enniskillen in the list? Thank you, Councillor Josephine Deehan. And second, Adam. Okay, so page 4, 5. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and it's item 8.3 on page 5. It's the issue of the Enniskillen fireworks display. So I couldn't get to last month's meeting, or the meeting earlier this month, but I was really pleased to see the outcome, that it was agreed that we would go ahead with a new expression of interest process. But I'm just conscious, Chair, that now we aren't, as far as I know, we aren't scheduled to meet until early September again. So if we could just, if it would be useful just to get an update in terms of where we are with that expression of interest process, and that timelines and timeframes are still all okay in order to allow a 2026 program.
Chair, I might just invite my colleague John Boyle to comment, but just to confirm, I know the process has commenced. There won't be a difficulty in terms of the timescale, because we were able to action after the last council meeting, and a report would be brought in September. But John might be able just to formally confirm the dates, Chair.
Yes, Chair, the expression of interest is out. Stage 1 has been completed, and we have a number of queries in with an organisation which has provided or has submitted an expression of interest. So we are working with that organisation at the moment, and we are hopeful that they will meet all the timescales, but an update will be given in September.
Thank you, John. Okay, so on page 9 or 8, 9. John?
Was page 7 I was going to come in on.
Sorry.
This is just to 8.7.
I'm sorry, Chair, just I will, after Councillor McCloughy speaks, I do have an update on LPS correspondence of the previous item, sorry, but we'll take Councillor McCloughy for.
Chair, I just wish to inform the council that following the advice given, I have resigned my position as an ex officio on case KDA. Quite disappointed that I had to take that action, but I feel it's the best way I can represent the KDA and the whole of the wider case community.
Okay, thank you. Rosemary?
I've also taken the same action and resigned my position, but it actually highlights, it highlights one important thing. We're meant to represent communities, but yet we're not, yet by the council rules and or by the legal information that we're given, it doesn't permit us to do so, and yet we're elected to do so. So there's a wee bit of conflict there. So I've also resigned in order to be fit to represent my constituents.
I don't think there's a problem being on it. It's just a conflict of interest. David?
Aye, thank you, Chair. Just to advise the same as I did advise in writing, but just to let the meeting know. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you.
And sorry, Chair, I should have just at the top of page 7, so item 8.6, to advise members we have received a response from LPS in relation to the Council's representations regarding the disruption to local businesses in terms of the roadworks on the outside, really. I know, Chair, there was a meeting yesterday evening here in the Grange with traders, and I know there are a number of associated actions. The letter from LPS does make representation to the opportunity, or does make reference to the opportunities for business owners to apply where they can evidence a detriment to their business, and reference is also made to the senior OMA valuer. So it may be deemed appropriate, Chair, that we would seek to convene or invite that valuer down to meet directly with businesses who are affected. I do think the onus will be on the individual business to make an application rather than any other method for compensation at this stage from LPS.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah. Proposer and seconded to note Stephen and Paul. Thank you. Josephine, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to propose to note the correspondence, but that's already been done, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're on page 8 and page 9.
Just at the MA on page 9, item 8.11, this was just in relation to the recently adopted motion by the councils regarding border corridor rural roads and the symposium. To advise that I met with colleagues from both Monaghan County Council and Cavan County Council earlier today. They are extremely supportive of the motion, but have also advised of their willingness that their own senior roads engineers, including Director of Service, could provide assistance to us as we would seek to develop the evidence base and also provide some practical logistical support. So I imagine members would be supportive of that, but I just would want to confirm that you're content that we would progress on that basis before formally doing so.
Seamus?
Yeah, I'm delighted with that response, and I'm more than happy to propose.
Thank you. And Thomas?
Likewise, delighted that we're getting some traction on this, and happy to second.
Thank you. All agreed? Page 10, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just page 10, item 8.12. This is a report, members. We advised you last month at the meeting of the ad hoc committee. So to confirm that the matter had been referred back to the July Planning Committee, which took place last week, and also to confirm that at the meeting, the Planning Committee determined that they were satisfied with the original decision. So therefore, the original decision is upheld, and that concludes the matter now from a council perspective. There will be a report as agreed tabled to the September Planning Committee, which will deal only with the conditions related to the application. So it's really just to note the outcome of that process, Chair, please. Just for proposer and second.
Yep, so thanks, Councillor McGrath and Paul Robinson. Thank you. Page 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Sorry, Chair, just item 18, the Strudel Shared Education Campus. To advise members, we have received response from the Education Minister. It's in the other correspondence folder, and within the response, the Minister notes both the, well, firstly, that the pitches have been configured in a multi-sport format to maximise provision, and decisions in relation to pitch configuration and signage were agreed with the individual schools prior to the commencement of the planning process. And on an ongoing basis, that will be their engagement mechanisms.
Thank you. So just for noting, please. Elaine, Councillor Brough and Councillor McGrath. Page 21, 22, 23 and 24. That's it. And just the next one is Planning Committee. Held on the 17th of June, chaired by Tommy. So do we do the? Yeah. So we'll do accuracy first. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and a little bit at the top of 22. Tommy?
Margaret Kerley, Molum na Munturski. I propose the minutes, Chair.
Thank you. And oh, we need a seconder. Who was second? Councillor Rainey, yeah.
No, not in attendance. Sorry, no, we need a different.
Oh no, sorry, Alan, you can't do that. You wasn't actually in attendance. So somebody that was in attendance for that meeting, Councillor McGrath, yeah. And just matters arising now, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22. So that's that. We're now on environmental services, held on Wednesday the 8th of July, chaired by Councillor Dermot Brown. So for accuracy, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Oh, Robert, I don't need to.
Chair. Yep, sorry.
Yep.
It's item 4.4 on environmental services. That's the waste management license at Lisbelow.
Is it accuracy, Robert?
Yeah, well, I want to actually propose that we refer this item back to the committee for further consideration. And the reason I'm doing that is there's a concerned lobby group within the village, basically, that feel they haven't been fully kept informed with regard to the future of the original site or what's actually going to happen. And whilst within council, the director and staff have actually moved forward and done things, I don't think that has been fully handed out to the population in the area. And I think we either need to revisit it or actually carry out some form of community consultation with regard to what the proposed decision is and what is the way forward.
Okay.
So that's my proposal, that we refer the item back for further discussion and for further community involvement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Adam?
Thank you, Chair, and happy to second that, just to say a couple of months either way, depending on how long it takes for that process, won't make too big of a difference in terms of time-wise. The other thing is if this is the appropriate time, and if Robert is content to also ask that a report is brought back to committee whenever possible, detailing all the options that were considered and why they were ultimately rejected. That might be a more matters arising thing, but if Robert's content, then now's the time to take it.
It's already been done.
Oh, no worries. Sorry, wasn't paying enough attention.
Okay, and everybody's in agreement. Oh, sorry, damn it.
No, I was just coming in to second that, so happy enough.
Yeah,
Chair, thanks.
okay, so that's, okay, no problem. So 5, page 6, 7, 8, 9, oh, just 9. Are you content with that? Yeah, okay. And a seconder, somebody who was there, Councillor Robinson. Yeah, okay. And now we want matters arising then. Page 1. Page 2. Robert, can you take your hand down, please? Thank you. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. 7. 8. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. And it's item 6.2 on page 8. Chair, I suppose my query is now, in the absence of our Director of Environment in place, I know there's probably likely going to be a little bit of a lull in between John leaving the council and his replacement coming in. Can I just seek an update on an item that this council had previously requested? And I think it was an item that Councillor Barton had led on in February. Ultimately, I think it was the 4th of March meeting of this council. We as a group proposed a motion that called for a 3-month time-bound action plan on the issue of the missed caddies and the ongoing challenges with bins in general. And I know, Chair, that we're now in July. I haven't seen a report come through. Admittedly, it may have come through, and if it has, that's on me. But my query would be, has that report been completed? Because it was the motion, I read it again. It was very clear, specifically a 3-month time-bound action plan to fix the issue and also to restore confidence. So that's my first query. And then I suppose my second comment would be, I look at even the last 7 days. Yesterday, there were hundreds of homes were missed. I think it was there north yesterday. There's one day last week, the entirety of Belknap Village in Arney had their caddies missed. And this is just something that it's been a bugbear, and it's greater than a bugbear. I mean, it has just been a challenge for this council for as long as I've been on it. And it is the #1 grievance that I understandably hear from local people. And it's the fact that in the middle of summer, we still can't even get on top of this. So, Chair, it's more just a query on, was that action plan developed? Because if it hasn't, why not? Or if it has, I've missed it. And then just, Chair, perhaps a comment from the Chief Executive in terms of actual mitigations that are underway. Appreciate there's been money put into it, which is great. Staff have been appointed, which is great. I support both of those, but they're clearly not sufficient.
Chair, my recollection is certainly the report was presented, I think the following month or the following evening, and it was one or the other because it was linked with the previous work of the elected members Waste Management Working Group. So certainly my recollection is that it was presented. In terms of the queries that Councillor Ovens is raising about this week, I haven't been appraised of those, but certainly the mitigations that we've taken have included additional staff. There is a particular challenge on some of the vehicles, which we are progressing the purchase of new vehicles. But that has led to certainly some of the pod lorries being off the road, and members will be aware those are of a significant age. I will look into the particular routes that are referenced, but I would only be estimating typically the things which are causing the pods not to be collected are either short-term sickness absence, which were notified on the day, or the inability to put a lorry out. But certainly the full staffing complement is in place, so that's the only other reason that I can think of. But I will certainly clarify that with the relevant officers.
Seamus?
Yeah, just to follow on from that, can I get an update? And I probably should have this. I'm sure if I went back through the notes it is. But when is the large brown bins going to be rolled out across the district? Because I think that might be a way of relieving this pressure on the brown bins and the caddies.
So the stage that we're at is the completion of the business case. That work is reaching conclusion, Chair, and I would anticipate in terms of the officer processes, that work to be completed over the summer with a view to the recommendations of the approved business case to be presented hopefully to the September meetings. In advance of that, what I have suggested to my colleagues who are working on it is that I think there would be benefit for a briefing for members, because you will obviously have access to the business case and the associated details, but there are a number of components. So there's the vehicle fleet, there's the bins themselves, there's the change of routes, and there is the ongoing staff and complement that will be required to service these. So the investment decision is significant, and it's over quite a period of time. So I think it would benefit us all probably to get the full detail of that. So that'll be the timescale I'll be working towards. Subject then to the council approving the business case, Chair, the main variables will be the lead-in time, just based on procurement timelines. We are procuring a number of the lorries because they've already been approved through the fleet strategy. I'm not giving you an indication of when. It would certainly be our hope that the rollout would be before the end of the current financial year, but that would be very much dependent on other variables that are not within the council's control at this stage. But we should have more information for you in September.
Thanks, Alison and Seamus. Eddie?
Thank you, Chair. And can I just ask that when that report is issued, that a few additional pieces could be added to it? One of the things that will result from the additional full-size brown bins for the rural areas in the council will be that hopefully there will be more in it, and people will then be putting less in the green bin. Can the calculation of like tonnage costs for the two wastes and estimates on the changes in those tonnages be included in the costs and the estimates as to what the actual overall cost would be for the changes?
So, Chair, there may not be a like for like within the business case figures. There will certainly be, based on the current presentation rates and optimum presentation rates and clean, essentially, utilisation, what we should be getting. That should have a relationship with existing waste streams, but it is not a direct like for like comparison. Reference is made to that, but you wouldn't be basing the business decision on it. So the business case itself is developed on the 5-case model, which would be supported by central government. And one of the variables that you look at in that is a consistency of what you're measuring at all times. So we would be able to make informed assumptions about what we would expect to happen, but that in itself would not necessarily inform the business case or the decision. But that would be something in that wider briefing that we could certainly share quite openly.
Is there any way we could potentially get examples of the ratio of waste and brown waste in other council areas in Northern Ireland as well, if that's available information, just to demonstrate where we are versus other councils as a result of the current situation?
So I think it's every quarter, Chair, we present the NILAS targets, which sets out exactly that information. I suppose one of the unique aspects about Northern Ireland is I think there are 11 different kinds of waste and recycling operations across each of the councils. So it's actually very different to get a direct comparator. What we are able to do and what we have done as part of the Brown the Brown Bin business case consideration is other comparable councils, for example, Mid-Ulster, the rate of presentation, what that has done by way of a reduction, particularly in residual waste, and how it has increased around green waste and composting. So we will have some data on that. But I suppose I would caveat it with, we're then only able to deal with the information that is available to us in the public domain and may not be an exact match.
Thanks, Alison. So just page 9 then. And Barry?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Gormayagat. Top of page 9 there's reference to the grass cutting regime, of the DFI roads. And without naming the person, I want to bring to the council's attention that on a constituent's behalf, in relation to grass, lengthy grass and hedges, blocking sightlines on the Tamlet Road, Omagh. I wrote to DFI roads on the 1st of July about that, seeking that would be cut because there was a health and safety aspect to it. And then on the 14th of July, the nearby property owner sent me a photograph of it still in that condition. In the meantime, I had received a letter from DFI roads saying they hoped to reply to me by the 24th of July. So the 24th is come and gone. This evening is the 28th of July. Can I ask that the council write formally tell DFI roads asking about meeting targets for correspondence? Because we had a particular meeting with DFI roads about this. We had it at a very senior level in the department, and we were assured that they were going to get that administration side right and that we would get timely correspondence. So the letter would ask the question, it would ask if the grass has been cut and what's the protocol regarding responding to councillors who bring these matters to their attention, because the deadline has long passed. And it shouldn't take a month or more to cut a little piece of grass that's identified to them as a health and safety issue. And it's adjacent to near 28 Tamlet Road, Omagh. Thank you.
That's no problem.
That's a proposal.
And there's a couple of dangerous ones in Enniskillen as well that's been brought to my attention. But yeah, that'll be done, David.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to second that Barry proposed. I had a member of a piece of AOB, Chair. I could bring it in now with grass cutting if that suited.
Yeah, go on then.
Yep, that's all right. It's just in relation to the grass cutting again, and I'm sure all members this time of year get maybe as much queries about it as they do the brown bins. Appreciate that there's 2 or 3 at least bodies that seems to cut or not cut grass within our villages, council, housing executive, road service, whatever, and there seem to be always pieces that's not cut, which is really annoying. They might do a good job, and there's a wee triangle or a wee strip somewhere that's never ever cut. So I was wondering, Chair, that if the council doesn't already have, if they could generate maps for each settlement village, colour-coded maps. Might take a bit of time to outline exactly who owns what where, who's responsible for cutting the grass in villages. That it can be made available to councillors so we can point out, we can contact the right bodies. And some of it may be privately owned and we're trying to get bodies to cut it when it's actually privately owned. It might take a bit of time, but it'd be useful for me and I'm sure other councillors to understand fully who's responsible within their village limits of cutting the grass. Thank you.
Chair, just more, I think if Councillor Mahon was content, we could certainly work to do the best we can with it. I know when we looked at this before, there's actually a considerable amount of unregistered land, believe it or not. So, but we can certainly identify or seek to identify those areas where the ownership is clear and what we understand the responsibilities to be. But just more for members' information, there may be areas that we don't have any further information, but we can certainly seek to do that. Mindful of the size of the district. So I suppose what we might just have to do is work through on the general hierarchy of settlements perhaps. But we'll see what we can do and we can report back in due course. So just get a second.
Yeah, can we, well, I'll come to, I know it's an issue, you walk around with constituents and they say, can you do this? But that belongs to council, that's housing executive, that's road service, and it can get very complicated. But Rosemary?
Thank you. Thank you. I also support what Councillor O'Reilly and Councillor Mahan have been saying. My
Can
issue,
you second David?
yes, David is, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
I also, it's in relation to questions that are asked. You ask a question from road service. If you're lucky, you get an answer within 3-4 weeks. Then perhaps it's not the exact answer you're looking for. You write back again. You're waiting another 4 weeks or 5 weeks or getting no answer at all. So it's just such an elongated method of councillors trying to get information, if they get information at all. And there must be some, especially when you're taking a follow-up question, to get a message to say it'll be another 3-4 weeks. That's a nonsense. It needs to be followed up straight away. Also, I've had just by the way, I've had a complaint in relation to the upkeep of the grass around the county hall in Omagh, and the chief executive, I copied her in the letter just for information, and I have contacted the divisional roads manager over that. So it's regarding they don't cut their own grass with it, or someone doesn't upkeep their own grounds.
Okay, thank you. Nolene?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to agree with everyone else who's saying about the responses from GFI at the moment. I don't know what's happened to the local office over the last few months. But as people are saying, you send an email, you then get a response a few days later promising a date. Could be 3-4 weeks away. The date passes, you write them another email, can I have an update. You get the same email back saying, thank you for letting us know. We'll get back to you in 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know what's happened. I know they've had staffing issues. Every time you ring, they're lovely people. They try their best to help. They take the issue down and ask you to put it in an email. Something's gone wrong somewhere along the line, and it's getting very, very frustrating for us as reps to get answers. So I just wanted to back everyone up. I'm having the same experience myself. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Victor?
Yeah, well, the same as. It's quite interesting. Councillor Mahan mentioned going around the houses. I actually had a situation last week where I went around the houses. I was talking to both council, housing executive, and unfortunately I couldn't get speaking to anybody in DFI, so I emailed them. But what has been said is correct. You send an email through, you get a response. Thank you for your email. Blah blah blah. We'll come back to you. And some of the stuff that we're sending in needs to be sorted, not in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time or 6 weeks' time. It needs to be sorted as a priority in a lot of cases. Now, I'm sure we're all the same here. We're sending emails in almost on a daily basis, and the responses that we're getting and the follow-ups that we're getting on them is just, it's not happening. There's nothing happening. Roads that was complained about. There was one up beside me in Brookborough, and they put the route and they marked it. The marking's now gone. Because nobody has done nothing, and so therefore we'll have to report it again, and they'll probably mark it again, and we'll go round in circles for another while. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Seamus?
Thank you. There's a couple issues that I wanted to raise. The grass cutting along the rural roads. Now, when I say it has all been privatised, it used to be the department's own workers used to do that, and they used to do quite a good job, but it has now went private. And when I say grass cutting along rural roads, I would have to maybe be careful with my wording. It's more like grass plucking. It is shocking. It is. I don't know how a machine actually does that on the grass. It seems to batter it, but without it to an inch of its life, but doesn't bother to cut it. So I don't know where or what is happening on there, but I think we need to write to road service pointing that out. The Forestry Service has decided in the last number of years under a lot of lobbying from myself and some other councillors that they now cut the hedges along their property, and they genuinely, and it's not often I praise Forest Service, but the private contractor that comes in to do it, it leaves it like a lawn. It cuts it that well. It's absolutely fantastic. So it can be done. It's just that it's not been done, and anything's good enough for the rural roads, it seems. So that's my first point. The second point that I want us to, or I propose that we write to DFI, to the manager in the Western Division, but also to the Minister, and requesting, because I think this was brought up at the last meeting we had of DFI, and it's something that Barry mentioned there about the danger on grass cutting, but there's a danger when we are out round the roads and potholes has been reported to us. There's some potholes terrible, yes, but there's some of them that's actually almost life-threatening because they're on a corner or they're on a brow of a hill and cars are swerving to miss these things at a foot deep, and somebody then else is coming round the corner, and there's been more near misses and more close shaves. It's unbelievable nobody has been killed yet. And I brought it up with DFI Road Service the last time, that surely when councillors put this in, because we don't put that in too often, that something is really dangerous, that it should go to the top of the priority and it should be fixed within a couple of days, because at some stage, unfortunately, somebody will be killed with trying to avoid potholes on them dangerous bends and the brows of hills. So I am writing to request that if councillors or elected reps put in that request and point out that this is extremely dangerous, that road service will prioritise it. So that's my proposal.
Okay, thank you. Eddie?
Yeah, happy to second that, Chair, if that helps. I just kind of follow on from Councillor Mahon's proposal. I had raised something around the kind of the lands around the edge of the water in Enniskillen a couple of months ago, just checking about ownership. You know, because some of it's owned by Waterways Ireland, some of it's managed by DFI, some of it's owned by us. And I wanted to kind of get a proper map out of where exactly who owns what and where, because some of it's just not maintained at all and it's in a terrible state. So I just wanted to see if there's any progress on that. And then secondly, you know, it's a great idea to look at that about the unclaimed lands and the lands that aren't being cut and by who. I'm assuming that that work is being done through the land registry, and maybe our planning team have access to the land register. I'm just wondering what the process is, and if it is, that's the case, would it be easier if councillors were just provided access to do it themselves rather than having to lumber our staff with it? Because I'd be happy enough to traipse through a map of Enniskillen and figure it out myself if I had access to that detail and that data. Thank you.
So, Chair, just in relation to the query about the waterways and the land adjacent to waterways around Enniskillen, I'll check the status of that action out, but based on what Councillor Rufus said, it hasn't been provided, but I'll certainly follow up on it. Yeah, in relation then to the ability for members to undertake searches, this would be really through, it wouldn't be land registry per se, it'd be more our own GIS mapping where we have data layers around land ownership. There are licenses required, however, we do have some, but so what I can take as an action is just to clarify if we would have an ability for those to be, or a number of those to be available to members, and then we could provide some training. And in parallel, we'll also see what information we can collate. But certainly if we're in a position to do that and there be a desire by members to have access to that, I'm sure we can see if we can facilitate it.
That's good. Thank you. I've already turned your mic on. I was sitting there clicking.
Yes, waiting in anticipation, Chair. Thank you. Can I follow the vein of the issues around road service? While we all have to dodge the potholes in our cars and sometimes wreck our cars and all the rest of it, can I put a plea out there to road service to think about motorcyclists and pedal cyclists who are much more vulnerable to these discrepancies in a road. And in particular, Chair, where we're sort of nearly, unfortunately to say, accustomed to dodging around the potholes, it is the center line in the carriageway where there is sometimes on stretches, and I mean stretches of the road, a 6-inch gap in the middle where the white line is. And while a car crosses that quite happily, in the dark, if a motorbike hits that or a pedal cyclist hits that, it can be life-threatening. And I would appeal that road service would look at that and repair those center 4-inch gaps that are along white lines that are devastating to two-wheel transport. That's one thing, Chair, and I'd like that added. I propose that we would add that in any correspondence that we're having. The second, to follow on from the vein of elected reps not getting through to anybody to be able to fulfill their function of representing the people. DFI really, really bad at that. You send in the email, as Victor says, or Rosemary says, you get the email back saying we have X amount of days, but that's it. You never hear more. You try to follow up and nobody has an idea what's happening. And that was taken right up to the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Mr. Woods. And his response to us in a meeting here in this council was, do you want the road service people to do their job or write to you? I expect them to do their job and write to elected representatives. That is what we are elected to do. You look at the health service, you look at the trust, to be able to contact any professional within the trust, you must go through the Chief Executive's office. Madonna, that's like trying to contact anybody here in our council and have to go through the Chief Executive's office. So they have to then write out to whoever the, or email out to whoever the professional is, wait till they get a response, and then you can maybe get back to your client. Whereas the client can ring or contact that professional directly themselves with you standing there and they'll get a response. And as elected representative, that's just not acceptable. You look at firearms branch, who you can't speak to anybody at all there, and they have an automated email that comes back to say, unless your application has been with us for at least 6 months, we don't even enter into any communication with you. Those are undermining how elected representatives are here able to do their job. It's literally tying our hands behind our back. The constituents can get answers quicker than we as elected reps can get it. And unless we do something about that, and I'm not sure, and I would seek advice whether this is to the executive we would write to, First Minister, Deputy First Minister, Head of Civil Service. Do we include them all in this? But this is right across, so it's not one department, this is right across the genre of different departments and agencies that we as elected reps are dealing with. And where we cannot talk to anybody in a professional capacity without the written say-so of the client that we are dealing with, surely as elected representatives, MPs, MLAs, councillors, if we are ringing up on behalf of whomever, we should have that right as part of our office to be able to speak on whatever the issue is. So is it possible that we could write Chair and seek some clarification around that? And as I say, seek some clarification as to whom would be the best
Yeah.
person.
Is that around all departments?
All departments, yes. It's right across the piece, Chair.
So that's Health Department, so all the ministers then?
We seem to be living in a world of emails.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was just going to say, if the job was done, you wouldn't be contacting them.
That's it.
Chair, just in terms of who we might contact next, I think the way our governance is that ultimately each minister is, and certainly each civil service is responsible for how their officers interact. While we could highlight it to the executive office, ultimately I think their responsibility is only for their own portfolio. So it may be a matter of bringing to the attention, certainly you could, the head of the civil service, the relevant permanent secretaries and the ministers. It is also an area of work that I know NILGA is particularly aware of, and at the various executive meetings, similar discussions that have been in this chamber around the growing, or at least the perception of a growing disrespect to councillors and their office has certainly been highlighted. So in maybe making our representations, we would also flag with NILGA as well as an ongoing maybe commitment to be part of their wider work on this.
That would be great, Chair. And can I just say, it was remiss of me, an example of good practice, and we have give them some criticism here in the chamber this evening, is Northern Ireland Water. When you ring up there, you get to speak to somebody, you get your complaint logged, they actually ring you back to speak to you, to give you an update. So it is possible to do that, you know, the systems are there. It is just, for some reason, other departments would use them. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you, Thomas. Colette?
Gora, may I go to Carly? Yeah, just on the DFA as well, I may as well put my tuppence worth in. Also, when they are cutting the verges, if they could cut the footpath, the grass on the footpaths back to allow more than one person at a time to walk on the footpath, because they've grown over the footpath, and when they come, they spray it, but sure, it's no good, they don't lift it. Yeah, our roads are seemingly not worthy of being filled in the potholes. I've been lobbying for 3 years, and I've been told that they're B-class roads, C-class roads. Is it C-class or B-class? But we're not good enough to have our potholes filled in. Whereas Victor was saying there that they were outlined in the spray. The spray has now disappeared, so they're neither walkable or drivable.
Are you happy enough to second Thomas's proposal?
Happy to second that. I had another issue with DFA. Will it come in now on that? It's
Yeah,
to do with pay parks or yeah. So Peace Plus has allocated 200,000 to the play park in Drumore, this new play park in the Riverside Walk. It's all been held back because DFA, the car park, where they're saying that there's no planning for the car park or no access for the car park. But if Drumore Chapel has allowed, the parish of Drumore has allowed permission to use the chapel car park, would DFA not be happy to not have that to maintain? It wouldn't be on their hands. Why are they allowed to hold back? Why are they allowed to hold
Do you
back
want us
a
to
play park? Yeah, to ask. Yeah.
Find out more about that. Is that all right? Yeah. Are you going to second that, Glenn? Yeah, that's okay. We'll get that looked into. Colette, for you. Rosemary?
Yeah, thank you for letting me in again.
Oh, yeah, I'm letting you in again.
Just one issue, and that is when we're writing about the DFI roads, could we also include the minister in that? At least copy her in that communication, please. Can I make that as a proposal also?
I think that's been agreed that we're going to write to all of them and include NILGA as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Seamus, I'll let you in again.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh my gosh, you're all coming in again.
Just on the point Thomas was making there about the departments, and I think the chief executive mentioned that sometimes they work individually. I remember 7-8 years ago, a department refusing to communicate with me about a constituent unless they were there at the end of the phone to give permission or that. And I pushed back on them on that. And it went right to the top civil servant. I think Stormont was down at the time. But he came back and said, eventually said that MPs, MLAs and councillors should be all treated the same, that if they are ringing about a constituent, that the department and the civil service has to speak to them. And that seemingly changed the time the code of conduct for councillors became an official code of conduct rather than a voluntary one. That put them into the same category as MPs and MLAs, so that if they are ringing on behalf of a constituent, you don't need a written permission or verbal permission from the constituent if you're ringing on their behalf. I'm not so sure whether that applies to the Department of Health. It might not, but all other departments, definitely that was the case then, and I never remember that changing. So just on that.
Maybe some people just haven't read the policy.
Yeah, and I did.
Victor?
I am going to be very brief, and it's just Colette reminded me of something. Obviously, most of the people in here will be, well, certainly the Fermanagh-based people will be aware of the vandalism over the weekend at Brookborough Play Park, and they're doing significant damage to the trampoline. Listen, that to such a degree that it's had to close and will be closed. I spoke to the officer, and will be closed probably for at least 2-3 weeks until they get the part that they need again to be able to open it. It's disappointing this time of the year with all our children off on school holidays and parents trying to get them out of the house, that they've nowhere basically to go. Like Brookborough's a small village and doesn't have a lot of other utilities to offer. So just wanted to mention
Very
that. Thank you.
disappointing to hear that, because that's disgusting. Shirley?
Thank you, Chair. Just further to the discussion that's taken place, the MLAs actually have a hotline number to most of those departments. It should be simple to add the councillors to that as well, really.
Yeah, we have requested it quite a few times in the past, but they don't give us one. They
Okay.
don't even let us use their one, but we'll ask again because it is important. Okay. So thanks for that discussion. We'll go to the, is everybody in agreement of all the proposals and letters and everything that's going to be sent? Yeah, thank you. We'll now go to the Regeneration Community Committee held on the 8th of July as well. And Councillor Tommy Maguire chaired that. Where's he gone? Oh, he's getting some fresh air, yeah. That's okay then. Right, for accuracy, page 1, page 2, here he comes. Page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Councillor Maguire?
Gormaga Carley, Molam na Mintorski. I propose the minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we'll now go to matters arising, page 1. Oh, do we need a seconder? Yes, please. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to ask for a seconder. Somebody to second. Victor, thank you. And matters arising, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep.
Chair, just on page 8, members to highlight the item 8.5, the Northern Ireland Water Drinking Water Quality Report. So there was a typo in the original report, so NI Water have sent the correct version. That has been uploaded with your papers, but also to the website. So just to note that we have received that and updated it accordingly, please.
Thank you, Alison. Oh yeah, no, Councillor McGrath and who else? Come on. Councillor Warrington, thank you. Page 9 and 10. It's okay. With that. So now we go to the Policy and Resource Committee, also held on Wednesday the 8th. And Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, who's online, chaired that. So for accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Anne-Marie?
Happy proposed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder, please? Nolene? Thank you. Oh yeah, that's okay. And matters arising now, yeah. So page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, thank you. Move these letters up there. Oh, you're going on to the correspondence, yeah. Are you doing that? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, item 13 then, correspondence. The first, a letter from Northern Ireland Water. This is in relation to lock access, or locks access really, to both Loch Braden and Loch Lee. So the response is detailed by NI Water.
Cormailgat Caherly, yes, in the response from the Chief Executive of NI Water, I suppose she has queried the nature of the access request, and the request really was around permit holders, so people who have a right to fish in those lochs, Loch Braden and Loch Lee, about their access. It wasn't for the council to actually have access, so we should probably clarify that with NI Water, that it was about permit holders' access to those lochs. And I suppose on the wider point, you know, this certainly no one wants to do anything that would contaminate drinking water, and vehicular access may be difficult. But on the wider point of accessibility, I think sport, we have to do everything we can to make sport accessible, and fishing is one of those sports that people can do, you know, in their older age. Pensioners can fish and should be able to fish, and if there are places that can be made more accessible where they could drive closer to bring their equipment closer, their fishing equipment closer, then that should be facilitated. If it's not possible, then we understand. So maybe I would explain that to NI Water in our response, but also raise that point with the Lochs Agency and NI Water, just the general accessibility, not just for older people, but for people who have limited mobility, and there's many reasons why that would be the case. So just to make the sport of fishing more accessible where it can be made more accessible. Cormailgat Caherly.
Lovely, thank you. And John?
Yeah, again, I agree with Councillor Campbell, and I would actually question the answer to the contamination and potential impact on water quality, as that's just a storage facility for water that's washing in, and then it goes through a treatment plant. And if anybody was going to contaminate, that would have to practically be a terrorist incident where they'd be contaminating that. In my opinion, it would need to be a real act of absolute vandalism, and no harm. The security facilities that they have there isn't going to prevent that if somebody's going to perform that sort of attack on the facility. So it seems quite contradictory, and you've got to wonder the ability of their treatment plant if a person hanging a line into fishing is going to contaminate that badly, that's going to affect the wider area.
So
I
you're
do-
happy to second?
Yeah, happy to second. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And all agreed? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The second letter is
Sorry, Robert. Sorry, Alison. Robert, did you want to come in there? Your name,
Yes.
your hand is up, but your name's not up, so I missed you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I've just put it up because it's in connection just with that point raised with regard to access and contamination, the response from Northern Ireland Water. Look, Lough Erne actually is a major source of water treatment at Killyhevelin. Okay? The actual upper lake is accessed by everybody, boats, individuals, animals, people fishing and everything like that. But the water draw off is treated perfectly harmlessly. And the same thing will apply to freestanding bodies of water, basically. The water can be accessed by anything, but it then goes for treatment. So I think the reply is a wee bit nonsensical, and I agree with John. I think maybe we just need to clarify that back to them. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. Alison.
Yep, thanks, Chair. The next letter is a response. It was on the back of, it's from the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and it was our submission for Enniskillen as Town of Culture. So UK Town of Culture, unfortunately unsuccessful, Chair, and as members may be aware, Strabane has been the only successful town in Northern Ireland. So we would wish them well with that, but just for noting otherwise.
Okay, do we have a proposer for noting? Councillor Deehan and Councillor Robinson. Josephine wants, no, she doesn't. That's okay. Next one.
Thanks, Chair. The next letter is from DFI Roads. This is following on from our correspondence of May regarding clarification about the Easter banners, which members had raised concern around. So the Minister is advising the department is not aware of any Easter banners referenced in the correspondence.
Thank you. Victor?
Thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, some individuals complain about slow responses from Stormont ministers, and though I don't hear any criticism of the slow response from this minister, the member also stated that she is unaware of any issues relating to Republican Easter banners in this area. However, I have a photograph on my phone of such a banner displayed in the Florence Court area, and I therefore would suggest that we write back to the minister, and I will provide the photograph to the council officers so it can be concluded with the correspondence as supporting evidence. So I'm happy enough to note the correspondence, but I'm making that as a proposal that we go back to the minister. Thank you, Chair.
Dermot?
Thanks, Chair. I think we've wasted enough time talking about nonsense like this. I think we're not going to support this. Thanks.
Councillor Crawford?
I'm quite happy to second that, Chair. And that's not-
Second, Dermot, or?
No,
Victor?
Victor, just make that very clear.
Okay.
It's not nonsense.
Councillor Gannon?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Obviously, Councillor Warrington's referenced a photo. I assume he has, but just for clarification, was just to say, did DFI know that existed? Was it reported to DFI or not? Just for clarification before we go back, because potentially it wasn't and they didn't know, to be fair. But
Did you send the
I
picture?
personally know it was the council who contacted DFI, not individual councillors. But if this is refused, then we can, as an individual councillor, obviously the ability to go back and challenge this is there for us. Thank you.
Okay. Tommy?
I'm going to Carly. I'm happy enough to support Councillor Brown there in that we do not take this action and send a letter. And as every councillor knows, if there's an individual issue like that, they're well within their own remit to deal with the issue. But bringing it here to the council is obviously it's a tit for tat waste of time. So happy enough to support Dermot.
Okay, thank you. So we have two proposals. Okay, so we're going for a recorded vote for Victor's proposal to write back to the department and send a photo. So we have that set up then?
It's setting up.
Oh, it's setting up now? Oh, yeah. Oh.
Is it joined, Debbie, just for the recording? You see, we need to just Adam will take a screenshot. Sorry. Svitlan might see the numbers. Check with me, that's fine. You can't do that as if that was you. Oh, no, I can't do that. Yes. Sorry, Chair, just add these in here.
Mm-hmm.
4, 17, and 2, and then. Okay. So that's 12 for, 20 against, and 2 abstentions. So the proposal falls.
So on that proposal, we have 12 for, 20 against, and 2 abstentions. So that proposal falls, and
Just a noting of the correspondence, which essentially was Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maguire, that we simply note it and take no further action.
yeah, okay. So the noting of the correspondence was done by Victor and seconded already. So that's us moving on now. Yeah,
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
that's it.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So item 15.4 to note the
Let's get these down.
Adam will.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Chair, Adam will remove that for you.
Okay, thank you.
So item 15.4 is just for noting the NILGA update, the NILGA news.
Okay, can we have a proposer and seconder, please? Josephine and Paul. Sorry, I didn't need to come round to you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Next letter is just a response from the Department of Finance Minister confirming the Executive's ongoing commitment for the A4 Enniskillen Southern Bypass.
Thanks, Alison. Seamus?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome that correspondence, and I suppose it's disappointing for all the false news advocates that was putting out that we weren't for the Enniskillen bypass. So yeah, welcome that correspondence.
Thank you. Adam?
I will second the noting of the correspondence, but unsurprisingly, I'll probably take a different view of it to Seamus there. Just, how many years have we been told it's the Executive's committed to it? Funding has been withdrawn more than once, and it was why I felt the guarantee, that was a guarantee from the Minister that it would be included in next year's budget whenever that eventually arrives, would be important, because that would have been that would have shown commitment. Unfortunately, that was removed from the motion at the time. But look, this letters, we hear lots of words, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then it just never happens. And it's another executive failure, in my opinion, Chair.
Okay. So we've had it proposed and seconded. Is everybody in agreement? Oh, sorry, Tommy.
Margaret Carley, thank you, Chair. And again, just in response to Councillor Gannon's comments there, it was noticeable when his party minister was in position, his position wasn't as adamant as it seems to be now, and so wise and understanding. But definitely it was a bit of cheap politics being made about the funding being withdrawn when he knew fine well, or anyone with any knowledge of the workings of the executive would know, that the outstanding budgets are put back in again and then come out into next year. I'm about here a long time, and even I understand that, and I'm no accountant. Gormagat, Chair.
Thank you. Next item.
Thanks, Chair. The next item is this is the DFC Historic Environment Division regarding the consultation or lack of about the street lighting in Derrygonley. So confirming firstly, Chair, they weren't consulted by DFI regarding the street lights, and then secondly, they weren't consulted by the council in relation to the conservation area. But again, that's clarified in the correspondence in terms of DFI's approach.
Adam?
Thank you, Chair, and I think DFI haven't done their due diligence on this, in my opinion. But I would be interested, because there's been no consultation of HED, and if anything, in anywhere near the remit of a listed building, it could be a kilometre away from a listed building or 500 metres away from a listed building, and there has to be consultation done. So my wider question is, if we were putting in planning permission for something, even if it was like a sign, there'd be a legal responsibility to consult for it. So this does, in my opinion, have a material impact on the properties within Derrygonley and listed properties within that. So is there actually a legal responsibility for DFI to consult on something like this? Do you know what I mean? Or is it something that they don't have to consult on, and there seems to be an imbalance, in my opinion, in terms of planning there? I would like to ask the Chief Executive who she thinks would be best placed to seek such an opinion, see is it something that they should have done or should be doing more widely. But I would like the Chief Executive's advice, and then we'll probably make a proposal on the back of that, Chair, if that's all right.
Chair, I think what we could do, certainly in the first instance from a local perspective, I'm going to suggest that DFI may consider what they have done to be within their normal scope of business, and therefore they in the same way as permitted development. Now, I'm not suggesting that's accurate, but we can check what we would have around expectations around normal planning processes. But I think we can go to the department directly, so to the minister, to the department, the permanent secretary, to clarify what their own arrangements for consultation and engagement are in relation to schemes, be they replacement of street lighting on this occasion. We are required as part of our planning process to have in place a statement of community involvement, for example, and it would be perhaps worth clarifying if they have anything comparable for the variety of responsibilities within the department. So I think we could perhaps seek their view, and then if we are dissatisfied by that or maybe need further validation, we could look at some alternate sources, but I think we'd go to them first.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll propose as described by Alison there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for that, Alison, that course of action that you're going to take. So I'd be happy enough to second that proposal and second the note or proposal, whatever it needs to be. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. And everybody in agreement?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the next item of correspondence was previously circulated to members as part of two briefings from the Western Trust. The first was in relation to the closure of the A32 and the associated roadworks, and then subsequently the appointment of the Trust Board Vice Chair. So formally reporting here this evening, Chair.
Thanks, Alison. And I know that we're going to hear a few of the issues, and there were quite a few issues that took place, but I have to say we were told it would start Monday and finish Friday, and to give credit where it's due, that is exactly what happened. But there were loads of issues during that time around, especially getting staff to work in and around the hospital. And I just want to mention on behalf of staff in the hospital, some of the abuse that they took was absolutely, it's just totally unacceptable. And I just want to highlight that, whether they were nurses going in,
when people coming into the wards, or especially the porters and some of the staff that were manning the car parks and everything. Some of the abuse was just horrendous. I don't know why people think they've got the right to speak to others who are just doing a day's work in the way that they do. So I just wanted to highlight that. But in fairness to DFI, on one side, you know, they did get it done within the timeline. It was open by 5 o'clock Friday because I went up it, but I know we're going to hear about a lot of issues that went on in between those 5 days. So Eddie?
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I think that that's a good point to start with, is this, some of the abuse that the staff did receive. And I've been speaking to a number of the porters that were having to marshal the car park. It was horrendous. You know, they were doing that in a very difficult circumstance. You know, the car park in the SWA has 900 spaces, and you know, we were trying to fit that 900 spaces into about 200. You know, so it's never going to work. It was never going to be ideal. But in the circumstances, I thought they did an excellent job. I'd like to put my thanks both to them as the porters and the hospital staff for the maintenance and marshalling of it, but also to the Early Integrated College and Enniskillen Integrated Primary School, who both opened their gates when the school was closed. Staff came in during their holidays to do so, to ensure that it was maintained well, and you know, that really helped a lot on that front. Alongside that, yes, the staff who from DFI or the contractors got the work done in time. But the point I would make is that 2 days prior to actually starting, there was no plan in place. There was nothing in place. And I did step in at that stage to try and facilitate it, because it was going to be an absolute chaos, because there was going to be no parking available for anybody to come to the SWA. They're going to have to use buses. They're going to have to walk long distances. What were people who were in medical emergencies going to do? There was very poor information out. I'm not blaming the Western Trust on that front. I think they actually did a very good job in terms of getting the information out as best they could. They had very little notice on that front, and it's very clear that the organisation was poor. But there was opportunities to engage, and none were taken at that stage. I was the first person to contact either of the schools to make that arrangement. So if, for example, the Western Trust didn't feel that it was their place to make that contact, I would like us to write to the Western Trust to emphasise our role as councillors to try and represent our local community. If the Western Trust feels they can't be the people to do that, please next time get us involved much earlier, because we could have done a much better job to facilitate that for people. Secondly, I would like to ask us to write to the Department of Infrastructure to look at how they decided to divert the traffic on the A32, because we know that that is one of the busiest roads in the town. The volume of traffic coming in there and out there throughout the day is huge. The Coe Road was never going to facilitate that. The diversion that they offered to HGV vehicles was enormous, was completely unmanageable, and particularly with the lack of notice they received. You know, those HGV managers who were doing those routes would have had routes planned days or weeks in advance, and all of a sudden you're asking them to do an extra 2 hours or so to that route. That is unmanageable for them to make their routes. So they need at least some time and notice to do that if you're going to ask them to do the main routes. So just one single diversion on a very, very small, narrow road was not workable. There needed to be at least a second one for local access, one for other side of the town, and then maybe an additional one for HGV, but additional notice. And I would ask that we write to the DFI to raise this as a huge issue when you're closing a major road, that further detail is involved, that you're responding to the local health service in a quicker manner, and that we again are involved in the process. Because if there was some local involvement, I feel like we would have got a better outcome on this. This to me seems like someone's made a decision who doesn't know the Coe Road, who doesn't know the roads around the area. And if there was more time put in place, we would have had a better decision and a better outcome for everybody involved. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Adam?
Thank you, Chair, and firstly to echo what you've just said about the abuse to staff, unacceptable. I think similar to Eddie there, the guys manning the car park, the staff were fantastic. They were doing the best job they could in very difficult circumstances, and I know many staff within the hospital were unhappy about maybe their arrangements for parking and getting in and out. But I do have to say to the Western Trust, they did as well as they could in that situation. It's not often I be praising the Western Trust, but they were very responsive, very open to ideas, and of course to acknowledge the work Eddie did in terms of the car parking. It was very vital there, I must say. I do also, on another note of praise, want to praise the local PSNI. They weren't meant to be involved in the management of this, but then they had to become involved because of an unsafe situation, and they have limited resource just like everywhere else, and they had to divert resource or try to make it as much as possible, and they did. They were present on the road, and that was appreciated. And Chair, normally when it comes to roadworks, I'd be of the opinion, tighten up, the work needs to be done. And yes, the work needed to be done in this case. Yes, there needed to be a closure for that culvert. But this was the first time that in my life that I've been driving on the roads that I felt a need to change my route based because I felt the diversion was unsafe. I drove that route multiple times that week. I tried to avoid it if I could. But I know there was near misses where cars came across the middle of the road multiple times and stuff like that. And I'm sure others have similar experiences that people have had there. And really, the DFI planners who were involved in this, it was unacceptable to put people in an unsafe situation. Just the other comment that you made, Chair, about the work being done on time, I have to say the contractors did it. They actually got it done ahead of their schedule. So it's not the contractors, it's the plans behind it from DFI. And I have numerous questions. I'll second Eddie's proposal and would like to make the following suggestions to said letter to DFI. Firstly, why was resource not allocated to allow double shifting to use all daylight hours or to work through the night? Obviously, the culvert and lighting may not have been possible, but the road resurfacing most definitely could have been done. Why was the diversion not manned with traffic marshals as the council was originally told? As well as that, when the culvert was completed, could DFI not have then moved to an off-peak closure or a one-way system, as is normally done with resurfacing on roads that I have seen? To acknowledge that insanely long HGV diversion, why was another HGV diversion not looked at, whether it be Fitting a Tempo, which has its own challenges but would have been a hell of a lot better and shorter? Why did they not have the foresight to know that this was going to be a huge safety issue? Then in terms of the co-road itself, Chair, there's potholes. There was already sides of the road falling away, as you know, as someone who goes down it frequently, I can see you nodding there. There was branches hanging. Why was no preparatory work done? There may have been a small amount, but why was that road not brought up to a better standard prior, given the volume of traffic that was going to go onto it? Why did DFI then not respond to concerns and change the plans when they were raised? They could have responded the same way the Trust did, the same way the PSNI did as well. And then in the same week, Chair, people from Urban St. Kesh decided to go the Shore Road to try and avoid that. There was roadworks on the Shore Road. Now, it wasn't a complete closure, but you have to question the logic in doing that as well. And the last two bits, Chair, was then on Thursday. It might have been ad hoc. There was roadworks on the Mullaghmeen Road as well, because I saw that, and you're just like, that's the diversion. What is going on down here? And it forced not Arctic lorries, but smaller HGVs down the road by the rugby club, which is just totally madness as well. And I want to share Eddie's points on local councillor input. I think if any of us in this room or anyone from Fermanagh had been involved in planning that, that would have been significantly better. And just if Eddie is content that we also raise this with the Minister, all relevant DFI officials, because I think the Minister especially needs to know that the unsafe position that people were put in last week. I was very surprised that we didn't have some sort of significant accident or incident last week, Chair. Thank you for giving me the time there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Seamus?
Thank you. And as somebody who had to bring a relative to the Aaron Hospital a couple of times last week, I have to say I had to come in always from the Dalney's roundabout there. So we'd be coming in from then that was closed. I had no bother whatsoever with the roadworks. It closed on Monday, it opened on Friday. I followed the diversions. I left 20 minutes early, got there. I never seen as many spare places in the car park at the hospital. You had multiple choice of where to park. I'm just flabbergasted to hear what's taking place here. You'd think that it was a complete disaster. There was a culvert down, needed to be fixed. It was fixed. People had to take a detour. They took it, including myself, and we got there, no bother at all. You drive, if you're on roads that you don't know, you drive a bit slower and a bit safer. I'm not so sure that this is the disaster that's been let on to be. There's people talking about that there was roadworks on other roads. Well, God bless us all, that's a terror that there was roadworks, that the road service was out doing roadworks. Maybe they should have sent them to Aaron East, and I would have more than welcomed them in Aaron East rather than round Enniskillen if they're so unwanted. So, and just there to listen to Adam, I think, and I will propose now, if anyone will second me, that we put Adam in over road service in Fermanagh, because everything will be sorted out going by that there. Hedges is going to be clipped, roadsides is going to be sorted, and everything when there's any road work's going to be done. So that's my proposal.
John?
Yeah.
Right, we'll all listen to John now. Thank you.
Sorry, I think there was the roadworks took place. They had to take place. It was an urgent repair. It wasn't something that was bounced on. I believe it may actually involve some sort of gas mains going through a culvert. So it had to be done quickly and had to be done. It just there was no options, I don't believe, for DFA on this occasion. But the signage I felt was quite poor, especially from the Cash, Irvinstein, Ballinamallard end. The signage was quite poor. People on Sunday basically panicking because they didn't know how to get to work, especially people who would never have had a reason to go by Ballinamallard or Co to get to Enniskillen and explaining to them how they got there. And that could have been quite easily resolved. It's not a major issue. People then taken to the back roads and trying to plot their own routes, which is terrible. The Ardgart Road and the Curran Road are totally unsuitable. They're single track roads and there's no room for passing on any of them. So they shouldn't have been using those roads. And I think motorists need to take a bit of ownership themselves. If there's a sign at the end of the road and cones there, and getting out and lifting them, because I saw them I was working up at the rugby pitches and it's the Enniskillen Rugby Club's actually Ardgart Road, although it's at Mullaghmeen. And I actually saw motorists getting out and lifting cones and driving down the road. And then met a farmer an hour later who didn't look too happy because he'd probably had to reverse a tractor and slurry tanker for ages to try and get this clown down that road. But motorists must take some ownership here as well. This was emergency repairs, as my understanding is from DFA, and it had to be done in timely manner. And the HGV issue again, there has to be. They need to look at all the haulage license. All the large hauliers have freight managers, and DFA should set up a way where they can contact them, because there'll be many occasions when roads are going to be closed across Northern Ireland. We often see roads closed for various reasons, and if they can contact the freight, so maybe that could be something that DFA would look at, is being able to contact freight managers, because HGVs are the hardest thing to manage on these back roads. But
yeah,
other than that,
okay. And I think that's really was your point around planning for the HGV, because, I think you're right. Some of the speed that some of them were going, because you're right. Some, I had to use it the whole week. And some of the nurses on night duty, you're just trying to get home. There were a couple of dodgy ones, but the job was done really well. The abuse was unacceptable. It was great to use the car park of the school, and the trust did try their best to, make sure visitors could come, staff could get in, and patients could get in as well. But there does seem to be a lack of, organising things like the HG. That seemed to be one of the biggest issues, really. Aaron, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You've basically covered all the points that I was going to go through there. I suppose from the start, there did seem to be a lack of information out there in the public domain as to what these roadworks were going to involve. You know, when it was explained to people, there was gas mains and piping involved. You know, it's very difficult for DFI to be able to come to any sort of workaround with that without having to close the road entirely. And again, with the abuse towards staff, you know, completely condemn all of that between the road staff, Greentown, you know, the porters in the hospital. I think they all did an excellent job last week. In terms of the road diversions, it's easy to say here now that the Cole Road's not suitable. I don't really, you know, bar the A32 and the A4 and the A5, I don't really know what other road is suitable to manage that traffic. You know, quite simply, you know, there was talk of Tempo Fintna. I don't know when the last time anybody drove along that road was, but I can assure you it's littered with potholes too, and probably isn't that great for a HGV either. So, you know, it's easy to say one road doesn't suit. If you can find me a road that does other than the main A road, you know, ultimately it's the A32's it's an arterial route. It's a very busy road. You're never going to find a suitable solution to that other than other A roads. And I have also just then in terms of the actual access to the hospital, I have to say the feedback that I got from anybody that was using the shuttle bus and that, you know, fair enough, there was a few early difficulties at the start of the week, but all the reports I received from anybody, patients or staff that were using it were glowing of how it operated by the end. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Dermot?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to echo some of the comments. You know, I think that whenever you do close such an arterial route like that, there's always going to be frustration and there's always going to be some issues arise. So that's okay. We can discuss that. I think that the mitigations that they put in place vis-a-vis the shuttle bus, and even myself, I went on the reroute through Co, and I didn't detect any major issues when I was on the road. And I have to say I wasn't contacted by too many people saying issues were on the road as well. So I think if we're talking about how to learn lessons from this, I think maybe they could have been a wee bit more prepared for some of the issues, long-term planning. I think that the councillors and the elected reps could have been involved at an earlier stage. I think some of these issues could have been ironed out quicker and the communication could have been better. And by and large, some of the frustrations could have been allayed. So I think, you know, overall, I think they done a good job on the road. I think everyone's glad to see that. They did the work on time when they said they were going to do it. So overall, I'm not that annoyed about the events of last week. I think that we can do better because we can always do better. But overall, I wouldn't buy into the sort of doom and gloom that some of the councillors there are presenting tonight. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, and Josephine's coming in. Rosemary, and then we'll finish with Josephine.
Thank you, thank you. Well, it's just to compliment those that were doing the work at the hospital, it having finished on time. It's not often we can say that and give road service or DFI some praise. So it's great to see that it was finished in time and they kept to their word. The few complaints I had was one in relation to HGVs on some of these, on the Co Road, for example, when perhaps they should not have been on it or should have been on another route. It was, again, using local routes that were not fit for purpose in relation to those HGVs. And the second complaint I had was in relation to some of the route diversions and the planning of the route. And I feel it must have been planned by someone that had no geographical knowledge of the area. For example, in Kesh, HGVs arriving in Kesh were told to go to Omagh, Ballygawley, and then Tenniskillen. That was the route. Instead of them being sent a sign in Ballykin saying up the shore road in Tenniskillen, you know, there seemed to be a lack of local knowledge within whoever was planning the routes. And I think that's where the issue was in relation to many of the routes.
Yeah. Josephine, thank you. Rosemary.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. It's been a very interesting debate.
And I think really it's a case of, it's a happy ending to this story in the sense that the essential roadworks were completed on time. And I agree that we should acknowledge DFI roads in that. But I do accept that there was poor communication. There was not enough notice given and lack of coordination with other agencies, including the council and the councillors. And I do think that this council can take great pride for how proactive our councillors were, particularly Councillor Roof, in seeking to alleviate pressures. For people who have reason to go to the hospital, it's a huge issue for them, and it's important that they get to their appointments on time. And many of them will be anxious and worried about their appointments. And I too would like to commend the staff in the Southwest Acute Hospital for responding to the need of the population. I think it's very regrettable that those staff have had to endure such abuse from the general public. I can only assume, Chair, that that was because people were irate and anxious and nervous, but still, it's not excusable. It's definitely not excusable. All of us try to do our jobs the best we can, and the least that we can expect is a little bit of acknowledgement of our efforts from the general public and to be treated with courtesy and respect. But I do think that there is something that we can do as a council to flag up the issues that there certainly were and to make sure that things don't happen that way in the future. So I want to support Councillor Roof and Councillor Gannon in their proposals, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Tommy.
Margaret Carley, I wasn't going to come in on this discussion because actually our family members were all making trips to the hospital during this period, and when it was muted that there was going to be road diversions, it caused a bit of consternation as to what was going to be the resolution. But in practice, the facts, as I encountered myself, were that the whole system ran very efficiently. The minibus was very welcome from the schools. And in fact, since they were taken away, I've had people saying to me, it's a pity the minibus wasn't there all the time because it makes it simpler than parking at the hospital. But again, that's an entirely different issue. The only other thought I would have was when Enniskillen public realm was being laid out, many shop owners were angry that it wasn't happening over the years. Then when it started to happen, they were angry because it was happening, because it was impacting on their business. So as I say, I think if we went down through the complaints and tried to eke out the facts and the numbers of people that actually were totally disgruntled and annoyed to the amount that some councillors have indicated tonight, I don't think the facts would bear it up, because the responses I have heard personally and saw myself from visiting was that it was as good as possibly could have been given the circumstances. So I certainly would condemn anyone that criticised the hospital staff, because they were more than jovial and welcoming to anyone that any time I was there. So again, storm in a teacup, I would believe, possibly too many people on keyboards, but in reality, I think the road has turned out super well. The only add-on I'd say to that is we were told that we'd have a new A32 the whole way from Omagh to Enniskillen when the hospital was opened, and it's just a pity that the rest of the A32 is now not in as good a condition as that bit between the two roundabouts. So that's my tuppence worth, Chair.
Okay, thank you, and you're dead right about that. There is a meeting with the Trust tomorrow, and I've actually spoken to Chris Curran anyway last Friday about this issue, and we'll bring it up again tomorrow. So are we right into, if you want to...
Sorry, Chair. Well, we've a number of proposals there, but they've all been seconded. But fundamentally, it's really regarding the clarifications as to why there wasn't the double resourcing and dual resourcing from a DFI perspective to speed up the overall programme. Concerns or clarification in relation to how the diversion route and appropriate mitigations had been identified specifically around local knowledge, maybe the lack of information and communication at an early stage, and that some of these could have been probably ironed out more quickly had members been engaged. Obviously, the zero tolerance around the abuse to staff, which has been highlighted, and probably just the general desire that in the event, because I suppose there could be an emergency or any reason why that route would be out of action, that maybe the mitigations for access to the South West Acute Hospital are now made more resilient and more long lasting. We'll follow up, and most of those were to DFI directly, Chair. And as you've said, we've the health subcommittee tomorrow, and specifically maybe the trust may have some other concerns that that will be discussed at the meeting.
Okay, is everybody happy with that? Yep, so we're going to the next.
Okay, so Chair, the next item is just a formal update from BT, and this is in relation to the payphone removal decisions. These are typically reported through to Environmental Services and has been the case for these, and they've now concluded their formal at the end of their own consultation processes, so just back to us for noting.
Thanks, Alison. Colette?
Very good, Carly. I wonder if it's possible to add another payphone onto that list in Church Street and Drumore for removal.
All right.
Would Chair, maybe what I'd suggest is we note this and then we could write separately just to BT around what that process. I think they deem it surplus, but we could certainly advise that they do so.
Yeah, I did try to lobby before, but it's quite hard to get through to them. So if it just want to see it on this, if maybe it was added on. Thank you.
Okay. And you're happy to note the correspondence? Yeah. Glenn, oh no, sorry, John.
Thank you, Chair. The previous list that came out from the post office or BT, as they are now, about telephone boxes, after they issued the list, then the Historic Environment Agency then listed a lump of quite a few of the telephone boxes. It seems like a bit of a nonsense. They're telling us they're going to take them away, and then another agency's telling them they can't take them away. And I wonder if we could write back to them, have they consulted with them prior to issuing this list? Thank you.
Okay, and you seconded the correspondence, yeah. Glenn?
Yes, so Carly, I just wanted to clear that just in respect of the phone box in Drumore, it's just an adjacent business where the conflict.
Okay.
Family member, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, and same as John here, we got the list in the ES meetings. And I was just wondering, Alice, I should notice, did any community groups try to keep these, or these definitely going now? Is that the stage where I have to still a chance? Did any, because I did contact a couple of groups, see were they interested for deliberate. I've just wondered, anybody contact or?
We wouldn't know, Chair, necessarily, so the representations are made directly to BT around those community schemes. And as certainly my reading of this letter is they've considered all representation, so this is it now, their final proposals.
You made a proposal, didn't you? Yeah, are you happy to second that, Anthony? Thank you. Barry?
Yep. Could I just check on the status of phone box outside Carrickmore? It would be Tarooney Road, and I was in contact with them some time ago about kind of seemed to be unstable. The structure seemed to be unstable. It was a bit like a leaning tower, and they took very minimal measures to, make it safe, to at least give the appearance of safety. They just put a few barriers around it. But if it's in order, then can we also include in that correspondence a question about the future of that phone box, and also intermediate measures now, interim measures to ensure its safety, that it's not a road danger or a danger to anybody nearby. Thank you.
Yep, okay. John, are you happy for that to be added in? Yep, okay, and all in agreement? That's good.
Thank you, Chair. The next correspondence, item of correspondence, members, is from NILGA, and this is regarding the UK-France Local Government Forum, which will be in Bordeaux from the 4th to the 5th of November. So this is an initiative that NILGA are progressing, but as you'll have seen from the correspondence, it's really predicated on having a partner, a French partner, but also a joint project that would be developed. You then submit the bid for consideration, and it's then decided whether or not it will be brought forward. So there's certainly nothing at this stage, Chair, that I am aware of, unless members through their own contacts have some suggestions or proposals.
Okay, can we have somebody to note that correspondence, please? Tommy, and second, Roy, all agreed. Next bit.
Thanks, Chair. The next is the notification for future board members for Tourism Northern Ireland. So again, bringing to you for attention and consideration. It's just for noting.
Just for noting, Dermot and Paul Robinson. Thank you.
Thanks.
Agreed.
Chair, thank you. We're just into then the other correspondence folder, a couple of which have been dealt with as matters arising. So the second item in the other folder is from the Director of Rural Affairs in DAERA, and this is just the independent review of what would be known as TRIPSI, the Tackling Rural Poverty and Social Isolation Framework. So again, just for noting, please, Chair.
Josephine and Bernard. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Item 3 in the other folder is the notification of NILGA's conference, which will take place on the 8th of October in Lagan Valley Island. So this is the only conference by NILGA within this mandate, Chair. I imagine it is something members would wish to support, and we'd also have appropriate officer attendance as well. As you'd have seen, the delegate fee is £25 plus VAT per person, and they are keen to get good representation from each of the 11 councils. So I'm not sure, Chair, if members would like to just consider this, and maybe we would formalise nominations at the September council meeting. Probably couldn't go much beyond that to give NILGA the notice required.
No, yep, agreed. Second, Paul, yep, thank you.
Seconded. It's just for
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. The next item, which is item 4 in the other folder, is from the Executive Office, and it's the public advertisement for the non-judicial member of the Truth Recovery Redress Service, and details are attached. So again, just for noting, please.
Tommy and Dermot, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The next item, which is number 6 now in the folder, is from the Minister of Education, and this is in relation to the Council's previously adopted motion regarding a better alignment between the CAO results and UK university admission and UCAS system. So the Minister has set out, I suppose, his response to that and also the work that he's undertaking.
Okay, we noting Dermot and Aaron.
Thanks, Chair. And
Thank
then
you.
the last item of other correspondence is for the Northern Ireland Energy Forum, which will take place on the 9th of September at Titanic Belfast. The details are included, and I think don't have the registration fee just there, Chair. I think it's on the links, but it's generally in and around about £250 plus travel.
Okay, can we have it for noting? You nearly had your harm. Thank you. Second, Paul. Okay.
And that concludes the correspondence.
Thanks, Alison. So what do we go to now?
214, the motion.
Okay, so we will now move on to the motion. And do we have an amendment?
You can do as well, Chair, but we'll make the motion first. So
Oh,
we have
right.
an amendment which is uploaded to the website.
Okay, so we're going to take the motion first, and then we will decide whether we're adopting the amendment. All right, so Nolene, you have 5 minutes and Thomas has 3 minutes. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks everybody. This motion is about violence against women and girls, which is one of the most serious issues facing our society, affecting women and girls from every community, background and age group. The impact is far-reaching, affecting not only victims and survivors, but families, communities, public services and the economy. My own community of Maguires Bridge is not untouched by this scourge, And we sadly recently marked the 1-year anniversary of the murders of Vanessa and her 2 children, James and Sarah. A shocking, tragic loss that all the community are still reeling from. We also still remember the shocking murder of Concepta Leonard, an attempted murder of her son Connor in 2017, also in Maguires Bridge. So unfortunately, like many other villages, towns and cities, we are more than aware that domestic violence can happen literally anywhere. While this council continues to do really valuable work through our own initiatives, along with the Executive Office's strategic framework and action plan, I actually do believe that we can do more. We can take the lead and set an example by developing a Fermanagh and Omagh District Council Charter for ending violence against women and girls. This will place our ending violence against women and girls strategy and our commitment to tackle it firmly in council policy and outline respective roles and responsibilities for this council and our partner agencies. We can ensure the compliance of any relevant council policies with the charter, along with the strategic framework and action plan. We are also in a unique position as the most rural district across the 11 councils to incorporate the findings of the current research that's being carried out by Rural Women's Network and the Rural Network, which will highlight how rural communities often face distinct challenges like fewer and less resources, extra costs and funding gaps, distance, transport and housing pressures, and community ties that can both support and sometimes silence victims and survivors. There is also more limited opportunities to seek help early before the crisis point. We can ensure that those rural realities are understood and reflected, as policies are often designed at a regional level where these realities are not recognised or understood. As a border area, we can also incorporate the challenges this presents for both victims and survivors and service providers. There was a really, really good report done on North-South cooperation to tackle violence against women and girls in 2024 by Women's Aid, National Women's Council and Department for Rural Affairs. This report really delved into the issue that the border brings, like differences in service provision, legal protections, and like access and custody issues, and specific issues that the traveller, Roma and migrant communities have to also endure. Specialist organisations are facing jurisdictional barriers on both sides of the border when dealing with victims and survivors. And since Brexit, these issues have been further exacerbated. We as a council have all of this knowledge that can be reflected in this charter. And we can develop a charter that's meaningful, evidence-based and generally reflective of the needs of our communities. It will be a shared framework for action, encouraging organisations, businesses, schools, sports clubs, community groups and public bodies to commit to promoting respect, equality and safety, whilst taking a zero tolerance to violence, abuse, harassment and misogyny. This is all about creating a lasting cultural change and sending a clear message that violence against women and girls has no place in society. And it's about working together to build a community where every woman and girl feels safe, valued and respected. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Nolene. And we'll now go to Thomas, who's, going to second.
Thanks, Chair. And in seconding this motion, I want to make a few comments. While we as a council here do an awful lot of very good work in our own capacity and with partners, and that has to be complemented, there is still much, much more to be done. And this motion seeks to put this on a more statutory footing to be able to record and to understand what we are doing, when we are doing it, and what more we can then ultimately try to do both as a council and with partners existing and new partners that could come online. I suppose this is about raising awareness at every avenue. It's about giving people the ability, the confidence to not be bystanders, but to be active participants, to have that confidence, to have the knowledge to be able to say this is not acceptable, and to have those quiet conversations, because sometimes those quiet conversations, when issues are brought up, are the most meaningful ways of changing attitudes. And it's far too late when you're having to bring police in and all the rest of it. It's about the preventative work that goes on. And while the executive office has the strategic framework and the action plan, this is also about funding. It's about providing the funding in a timely manner to be able to allow the good initiatives that are out there to happen at a timely manner, but to be sustainable, so that there is a clear expectation and a clear knowledge that this is not just going to be a one-off sort of reaction. This is going to be a sustainable situation where we hopefully bring up the generations that are to come with an attitude of respecting women, of treating them as equals, of seeing that there is no place in society for violence against women and girls. And we as a council leading and doing as much that we can, but also making sure that it is an individual responsibility by our citizens to be part of that change. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Thomas. Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chair. And can I start from the outset by paying tribute to the members for bringing forward this motion? I think that it's incredibly timely, and indeed I would like to commend Councillor Hayes for highlighting both the intersectional and cross-border dimensions of tackling violence against women and girls. Alliance believes in building a society where women and girls are empowered to live their lives free from harassment, intimidation, and violence. We must dismantle the culture of stigma and silence that endures and deprives far too many women and girls of the safety and justice they are entitled to. While progress has been made in recent years on the legislative front through Justice Minister Naomi Long's efforts to criminalise stalking, upskirting, downblousing, non-fatal strangulation and spiking, and while we see substantial work from grassroots organisations on the ground such as Women's Aid, this challenge remains endemic and there must be no complacency about the threat that it poses. Having spoken to many constituents of mine in Omagh over the years who are survivors of domestic violence, I am aware of the uniquely rural dynamic to this problem of violence against women and girls, as due to the limited amount of suitable housing, there are occasions that individuals or families living in dangerous situations are being presented with alternative options that are unsustainable in terms of the distance to their children's school or many other different factors. This is one facet among many that must be considered, and the complexity of this problem underlines the importance of continuing to support the work of the Executive Office in this space, as well as supporting the recommendations in the motion to proceed with developing our own charter and an adequate programme of training. Where we as a local authority have the capacity to be able to make a difference and aid those wider societal efforts being led by those active on the ground, I think that we have a moral responsibility to do so. And on behalf of Alliance, I would like to support the motion.
Thank you, Stephen. Josephine.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I too would like to record my thanks to Councillors Hayes and O'Reilly for bringing forward this motion. Chair, violence against women and girls is a major societal issue, and it is one that is really a scourge on our communities. It brings shame on our society, and it brings tragedy and suffering to victims and survivors and their families. It requires a major cultural change, which is urgently needed to protect life and quality of life. I do want to acknowledge the work that has been ongoing on this issue through our own council, and particularly the work of the PCSP, and to acknowledge the work of Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid, and also the courage and bravery of those who have lived experience and who bring those experiences to the attention of the general public. Because unfortunately, in a large proportion of cases, domestic abuse it goes largely unreported and is hidden. So it is important that we as a council do all that we can to ensure that violence against women and girls is brought to a halt as quickly as possible. And I do think it's important that as a council we should develop a charter for ending this violence. And I think that everything that we can do as a statutory body is important and is urgent. I do agree that as councillors, we do require training, and it's a good idea to have this included in our councillor induction. I agree with Councillor O'Reilly that funding is necessary to progress the Executive Office's strategic framework and action plan. So we need that action plan to progress as quickly as possible with adequate funding, and anything that we as a council can do must be supported. So I support the motion, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Adam?
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, to thank Councillor Hayes and O'Reilly for bringing such an important motion here. As has been mentioned, it is just over a year since the anniversary of the murder of Vanessa, James and Sarah, and also to mention the more recent loss of Ellie Flanagan. Very real examples that illustrate the issues that we face in our society. And this Fermanagh represents 3% of the population of Northern Ireland, but represents 15% of all murders of women and girls from statistics from last year. It's estimated that there's about 30 domestic violence incidences before it's reported to the PSNI, and it only escalates as the incidents continue. And as has been mentioned and recognised in the motion, rural areas in particular allow for greater isolation and allow abusers to isolate victims, and quite often people find it harder to get support. And Chair, I would like to mention yourself here, Chair, because I always knew domestic violence was something that you were always very vocal on and very clear in your campaigning on. But I've said this to yourself, I didn't know your own story, Chair, until you became Chair. I didn't know your background. And I think it's really important to say that it is inspirational what you've overcome. And today you're sitting there as Chair of the Council representing approximately 120,000 people in this district. That needs to be recognised. Obviously, we'll be supporting the motion, Chair, and just I'll propose the amendment at this stage. As has been recognised, funding is needed. And as I've also said tonight, the Executive have failed to agree on a budget, and a consequence of that is only a quarter of the funding that has been allocated to Council for projects around ending violence against women and girls, and in other areas as well, can be released. This restricts many great projects. There's local projects, brilliant local projects that can't get off the ground because the funding isn't there. If the funding was released tomorrow, they could start tomorrow. And these are in our own district as well. And the Executive, to complement the Executive here, has produced an excellent framework and an action plan, but it needs funding, and it can't proceed in its entirety because these projects are a big part of it in the local community until a budget is agreed. And this just kind of highlights the wider dysfunction that we experience and how it does impact people really, and how it really hurts people here when there is inaction. And I think it's just worth, and it's something that myself and you, Chair, not to go into the details of the meeting, we attended a meeting and this was something that we were asked to raise, that we ask the executive, ministers, and the parties in the
We'll come
executive.
back to that in a minute. We'll take this first and then we'll bring your amendment in.
Okay, so well, yes, but just to finish, how they need to act on this because it is having a real impact, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Rosemary?
Chair, thank you to councillors Hayes and O'Reilly for bringing this motion here this evening and giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party again in support of this motion. Once again, our country has been blighted by violence within the past week. Again, violence against women and a child. Behind every statistic of a woman or girl is a family or a community whose lives have been changed by abuse or violence. The impact of this extends far beyond the individual, affecting children, families, public services, and our wider community. As a council, we do have an important role to play. We are leaders in our local community. We have a responsibility to ensure that our policies, our partnerships, and our actions contribute to making Fermanagh and Omagh a safer place for everyone. I welcome the work that has already been carried out by this council through our own initiatives and in support of the Executive Office's strategic framework. I also want to recognise the invaluable work of the Policing and Community Safety Partnership, Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid, and the many statutory community and voluntary organisations that provide support, reassurance, advocacy and hope to those affected by violence and abuse. FODC, however, does face particular challenges as the largest rural council area in Northern Ireland. Many people live in isolated communities where accessing support can be very, very difficult. Our position as a border region brings additional complexities, yet these challenges are not matched with additional resources. That makes partnership working and effective planning even more important. The commitments set out in this motion are practical and meaningful, developing a council charter for ending violence against women and ensuring our decisions are consistent with the strategic and action plan, and clearly defining the roles of the council and our partners will help turn our commitment hopefully into action. I particularly welcome the emphasis in training, equipping both staff and councillors with a better understanding of violence against women and girls will help us recognise the issues, respond appropriately and ensure this remains a priority throughout this council and beyond. Chair, ending violence against women and girls is not the responsibility of one organisation alone. It requires all of us to work together, challenge harmful behaviours, support victims and survivors, and create a culture where violence and abuse are never accepted and will not be tolerated. I hope every member of this council will support this motion here this evening and send a clear message that Fermanagh and Omagh District Council stands united in its commitment to ending violence against women and girls and to building a safer community for everyone.
Thank you, Rosemary. Shirley?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the councillors who brought this before the council tonight. The DUP party is fully in support of the motion. Violence against women and girls is a complex social problem. It does not have a single isolated cause. Instead, it results from a combination of deeply embedded social, cultural, and individual factors. At its core, violence against women is rooted in historical and ongoing inequalities. Perpetrators often use violence to assert control, dominance, and power over women. Unequal pay and financial disparities can leave women economically dependent on abusive partners, making it harder to escape dangerous situations. A lack of women in leadership, political and decision-making roles slows down changes to protective laws. Harmful social beliefs also normalize, minimize, or excuse abusive behaviour. Traditional expectations that dictate men must be dominant and women must be submissive fuel entitlement and aggression. Cultural attitudes that objectify or demean women contribute to an environment where violence is tolerated or ignored. Social tendencies to question a woman's actions, clothing, or choices shift accountability away from the perpetrator. A cultural reluctance for witnesses or community members to intervene or report early warning signs of abuse. When laws, justice systems and institutions fail to hold perpetrators accountable, violence persists. My party will continue to work both in Parliament and the Assembly to seek action to tackle this scourge. There are no simple answers to a problem which is both complex and widespread. However, we should all work towards a point where women can feel safe across Northern Ireland. The Democratic Unionist Party is committed to supporting measures which improves the experiences of the criminal justice system for victims of violent and sexual crime throughout Northern Ireland. In particular, we want to increase confidence amongst women and girls who are victims of such abuse in supporting and pursuing prosecutions and bringing their perpetrators to justice. For progress to continue, we must be willing to have serious discussions around the safety of women and girls. Women have the right to raise questions about their safety and dignity without being silenced or ridiculed. The DUP will stand firm in defending the safety and dignity of women and girls. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Shirley. Dermot?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to agree with a lot of what's been said already. It's clear that this is a major issue, particularly here in Fermanagh and Omagh, and people often say that the north of Ireland is the worst place in Europe or the most unsafe place in Europe for a woman to live. Well, Fermanagh and Omagh is the worst place in the north. That's clear by the statistics. We all can remember the very, very horrible multiple events over the last couple of years, and the families are in our thoughts. This is an issue which affects women right across the community. It affects all class, all religions, all social backgrounds. So it's not defined to one section of the community. Clearly, there is a rise in misogyny and sexist attitudes, and we see that being peddled on social media. We see significant figures, influencers or people like Andrew Tate, all these sort of figures that young men seem to be following for some reason. And I think we have a responsibility to challenge that when we see people sharing sexist things on Facebook or Instagram. We should just let them know that that's not okay. If we're in the workplace and we hear sexist jokes, I think we challenge that as well, because this is where the violence comes from. It comes from these outdated sexist attitudes. There has been a renewed focus recently, and including yourself, Chair, for you sharing your story, and I think you should be commended for that as well. And recently, the Impartial Reporter and fair dues to them have been sharing the stories of women who have been very brave and coming forward, sharing their stories. And of course, I think it's important to remember that, women are very often dismissed. So the fact that they felt brave enough to come forward and share their story, which just shows how important that is. And then, of course, many women can't come forward because they're still living in fear. I think there's a lot of good work being done on the ground here. I think Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid are very good, and other community organisations as well. But obviously, we do have questions around the funding and are they getting enough support? And we would, of course, want to see as much funding as possible going to those groups. And just to finish on that, then, Chair, I think that this motion is very welcome, and I think it really does affirm that although council, it's not a council issue, it's a cross society issue, but we will play our part. We'll step into the role that we can play and provide that leadership and coordination, maybe perhaps as well. And again, I think just to finish on that point there, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Dermot. And Bernard.
Thank you, Chair. No, just to support the councillors who brought this motion. It's very important, and I'd just like to second Councillor Gannon's amendment. Thank you, Chair.
So Sorry, Chair, just for members' benefit, the detail of the amendment has been included on the decision time. So it's the red font is the decision. So at this point, Chair, you're just taking then a vote solely on the amendment at this juncture. So.
Okay, so, okay, so is everybody in agreement with the amendment? Yep, so.
Now you're back to Councillor Hayes for summing up, so that becomes the substantive motion now with the amendment.
Okay, so we come back to you, Nolene, now for just concluding comments. Yeah.
Right, thank you,
Okay.
Chair. I'd like to thank everybody for all their really supportive comments about this motion. Just a few things. The rural aspect and the intersectional aspect, I thought was very important. It's right, you know, people are saying it is a scourge and a shame on our society. I would also like to say, Debbie, in you know, sharing your story and just personally all the help and advice you've given me on any issues like this, I'd just like to thank you as well. And it is an inspiration that you are sitting up there after your personal experiences. Everybody was said really things that I agree with all of them. And the amendment about the funding, that's fair enough. You know, these things do need the backing of funding, especially you know, when it does come to funding as well, the fact that the rural aspect and the border needs to be reflected was really important to me. And also that we do hopefully, you know, keep campaigning to get more funding from British government. Need to recognise just generally for the north that we need funding for everything. I also would like to say about Fermanagh and Omagh Council have done tremendous work on this already, and anyone I've spoken to have said that it's one of the best, if not the best, council in the north for the work and support that it's given to this issue. So I just want to commend that as well. And obviously Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid and the PCSP as well are very important. But I'd just like to thank everyone for their support and their comments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so everybody's spoke, and sorry for cutting you off, I must say, Adam, because I thought you were coming in again, but I think you got the point over, and Bernard is second, and everybody's read it and agreed it anyway. So are we all in agreement of the motion as it is now with the amendment? Yep, okay, so that's carried, thank you. Yep. So what do we go to now?
So Councillor Deacon is your first.
Okay, so we're going to any other business now, and Josephine, you're the. Oh, actually, Elaine, what are you present for a reason? I'll bring you in a minute. Josephine?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to bring in two brief items of any other business. The first is really to request that you would host a Chair's reception for the Omagh Friends of Marie Curie, who this autumn will celebrate 30 years of hard work by the committee, volunteers, supporters. For those of us who are not familiar with the work of Marie Curie, they provide invaluable support to patients and their family in providing end-of-life care. I have been informed that over the past 30 years, the Omagh Friends of Marie Curie have raised £950,000, which is a great testament to their work and also to the generosity of the local community. So, Chair, I would greatly appreciate a Chair's reception for that worthy cause. And then the second item of AOB, members will be aware of the death of the celebrated actor, Sam Neill, on the 13th of July. He was born here in Omagh in Mullaghmore House. He then moved to live in Armagh, and at the age of 7, he moved to New Zealand. But he certainly distinguished himself as a celebrated actor, very versatile, came to prominence through his roles in Jurassic Park and subsequently in Peaky Blinders, but a wonderful career to be celebrated. Not only was he a very talented actor, but also he was greatly involved in environmental issues in New Zealand. So I would like to request that this council would explore some mechanism or way of acknowledging his birth in Omagh, the county town of Tyrone, just so that we can claim him as one of our own chairs. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. I'm just taking. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor McGrath. Marty, you're next.
Thank you, Chair, and just I'd like to request that you would host a reception for local football club, Strathroy Harps, who participated in last week's Foyle Cup, and I'm delighted to say they had a very successful campaign in that. One in the under-12 Foyle Cup, or sorry, the under-10 Foyle Cup outright, and the under-12 and under-13 teams becoming Foyle Plate champions. This year, over 1,000 teams took part from across Ireland, Europe, and North America. 120 teams in the under-10 competition alone, which Strathroy Harps won. So that's shows the level of achievement by the coaches and the players involved, and just would be great, Chair, if you could host an event for that.
Yeah,
Give
that's
them the
lovely.
recognition they deserve.
No problem. Thank you. Stephen, you're the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just in relation to news that kind of broke in the last couple of days in relation to cuts in the Western Trust and how they're proposing to deal with 41 million pounds of savings. And to do that, they're targeting cleaners' hours. It's been reported in the media that they're going to plan to cut cleaners' hours from 30 hours per week down to just 10 hours, which is equivalent to 66% of a cut. And that's, of course, a devastating blow to families who are already under significant pressure due to the cost of living crisis, the high heating oil costs, fuel costs, etc., etc. And the question, I suppose, needs to be asked is, why yet again are those who are paid the least expected to do the heaviest of the lifting? And if this wasn't bad enough, other health and social care workers, like social workers and other staff, have now been asked to undertake cleaning duties in their immediate workplace as if they weren't busy enough. So I propose that we write to the Western Trust asking for a rationale why, in their attempt to save £41 million, are they targeting those who are paid the least and on whom these cuts will be the hardest felt. I also want to probe what sacrifices are the senior executive team making in terms of salary to address these savings. Why are they leaving it to those who are paid the least to take the heaviest of the brunt? And a similar example of this is, it came up recently as well with the University of Ulster, where it turns out that their senior team and those who are paid the most had no pay reductions, where lowest paid workers, again, like cleaners and others, were denied their full pay rise, basically amounting to a pay cut. So this highlights, again, generally why Sinn Féin's Good Jobs Bill needs to be passed. It strengthens workers' rights and it gives workers more protections in examples like this. And just to make that point, but if we make that proposal, we write to the Western Trust Chair in relation to these devastating cuts to workers' hours. Thank you.
Yep. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Josephine? Thank you. All agreed? Councillor Robbins?
Thanks, Chair. Just a declaration on that end.
Okay, thank you. Elaine?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge Dr. Hannah Gillespie's recent achievement. Dr. Hannah Gillespie from Belcoo has made history as the first female swimmer from Fermanagh to cross the North Channel, which is a treacherous stretch of open water. She completed her swim in 14 hours and 45 minutes. As you know, I've requested a chair's reception and will be submitting the paperwork after the meeting. I'd also like to acknowledge Ellie McCartney from Enniskillen on her achievement at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. She's recorded a season's best time in the 200-metre individual melody heat and is the first reserve for tonight's final, so wish her well in that.
Very good. And Anthony, you want to second that? Okay, thank you. Yep, and now Seamus.
Thank you. I want to raise an issue that has been brought up to me on numerous occasions there in the last number of weeks, and it's the lack of places for MOT tests in Fermanagh and Noma area. People are trying to book even 3 months ahead, and there is no spaces whatsoever available. So I would like for us to write to DVA and to the Minister and ask what is happening. Why is this happening to, especially in the Fermanagh area? COVID is long in our rear view mirror at the minute. There was cars given extra year for MOT. There was different measures brought in to try and do away with the backlog, but it seems to be getting worse and worse. So I would like that letter wrote and find out what exactly is happening.
Okay, can we have a seconder for that, Thomas? Thank you. All agreed? Yep, so that's.
So you're just into confidential, and Chair's just a proposer to go into committee, please.
Okay, so can we have a
Sorry.
propose? Oh, hold on a minute. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, Mark. I was looking for a button to push, but I don't need to. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Chair. You've got me now. You're all right. Can I
Yeah.
just declare an interest in that last item as employed by DVA, please? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thank you. So proposer to go into confidential, Elaine and to committee, full committee. Paul and to go into what?
Yeah. to back into the
Josephine.
council,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and Josephine.
Chair, so happy for me to give this summary.
Yep. Over to you, Alice.
Okay, Chair, thank you. Members, then while in confidential business, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 7th of July. There were no matters arising, and also signed the confidential minutes of the June Planning Committee and the July Environmental Services and Policy and Resources Committee meetings. There are no matters arising from either planning or environmental services, but an update on a staffing matter was provided as a matter arising from the Policy and Resources Committee, and an update on a legal matter in relation to grant aid was provided for the Policy and Resources Committee as well, Chair.
Thank you, and that's conclude.
Yeah, no, just to propose and
Oh,
second for that.
propose and seconder, Paul and Dermot. Oh, sorry.
And then that's us, Chair.
And that's us finished. Are you? I just yeah, just before we go, I just would like to wish Sinead all the best on her future career. And so to note that this is her last meeting here for Maranova District Council. So thanks for all your hard work, Sinead, and best luck for the future. And that's us. Yeah. Oh, I'll see you all in September. Have a good August.